How does excessive screen time impact our health? And what are some ways to regain control and reduce screen time altogether? Welcome to the search bar. You've got questions, let's find some answers. Bypass Google and sidle up to the search bar instead, as Central Michigan University's amazing team of experts answers some of the internet's most asked questions. I'm your host, Adam Sparks, and on today's episode, we're searching for answers on screen time. Sarah Domoff, Associate Professor of Psychology at Central Michigan University, is here to help us do just that. Hey, Sarah, thanks so much for being here again. I'm really excited to talk about screen time because I know that I get way too much screen time. And I thought about when we were setting this up that I would just hand you my phone and let you look at my screen time report. And then I looked at it this morning and I was like, no, this is embarrassing. It really creeps up on you is the thing that I realize is like on Sunday when my iPhone lets me know how much screen time I've had and it's down, I'm always like, yeah, like I kind of feel like I've accomplished something. I'm not even sure why. It's not like a goal I'm setting, but then I'll look at it. I'm like, that's still like a lot, you know? It gets us now, right? It's like so ingrained in us. I don't think we even realize that passively how much time we're like on a phone.
Exactly. And I study this stuff and I couldn't even tell you how much I'm on my phone, how much I checked it today. And actually adults have more screen time than teens, though we hear more about the issue with teens on the news. But I think that's important when we think about screen time for our children. We also have to think about screen time for ourselves and for our family because it's such a part of everyone's daily experience.
There's this kind of cultural phenomenon where it's like we as a convenience and as a means to kind of expedite, 'cause we're always trying to expedite everything now,
Mhm,
which is nuts. Expedite our way through life. There's more screens everywhere, but there's also more shame for letting your kids be on
mhm,
screens
mhm,
as well. Like if you're a parent, how do you navigate that
mhm,
expectation? As soon as your kid can reach out and grab something,
mhm.
they're grabbing your phone out of your hand.
Right. So in terms of guidelines, for the very young children, like under age, well, definitely under age two, 1.5, highly advise against any screen time,
Mhm.
with the exception of maybe video chatting with family members that your young one can't see in face to face situations. With the 2 to 5 year olds, recommending no more than 1 hour of high quality educational pro social media a day. And then with ages 5 and up, it really kind of depends. It depends on, are they getting everything else done that they need to get done? That leftover time, they could have some hours of screen time, but there's no hard and fast rule. And I think what's really challenging is that the content really varies when it comes to the types of things that we're watching, whether it's or playing in terms of video games. And so for parents, it's really important to think about what content is your child seeing? Is it age appropriate? If they're really young, let's make sure that it's something that's developmentally appropriate, well informed. So Sesame Street, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, and so forth. With older children, you want to make sure that what they're seeing is age appropriate, but then also be present as well. So even though they're older, you still want to have conversations about what they're seeing. And there's this term called active mediation, where it means parents being present and talking about what they're seeing on TV with their child or what they see online, so that they can have these conversations and learn about what they're seeing and know about their content.
Are there times and places to go, we need to put this down and be present,
Mhm,
or there's kind of that double shame. Like
mhm,
let's say you've got kids that are kind of in that preschool to first grade age where
mhm,
there's like a whole lot of like kind of the iPad time.
mhm, mhm,
And it's like I want my kid to be quiet because we're trying to sit down at a diner and
mhm,
have dinner and
mhm,
they're antsy. It's been a long day. We're out shopping, we're running
mhm.
errands. Do I make them be present, or do I say no? We're not even gonna do that now. Like, is my kid gonna be screaming, or are they gonna be glued to the iPhone? Like, I feel guilty either way, right?
Right. So I think having flexibility and not thinking in black and white about these things is going to be really important.
Mhm.
And typically, what I recommend is to think about your 24-hour day, a typical 24-hour cycle. What is it that you or your child need? What do you need to have? So you need to have those good 7 to 8 hours of sleep if you're an adult,
Mhm.
more if you're a child or teen. You need to make sure that you're getting some physical activity. What I would do is I recommend take out all the hours that you need to do other things that are good for your well-being. And if you have time left over, it's okay if it's on screens if the content is appropriate. Um, I think the bigger piece that can be hard for parents is setting limits around certain times. And so obviously if we hear that nighttime is such a struggle. getting your child to go to bed, stay in bed, go to sleep. Sometimes screens are used to keep them in the room, and that can backfire because that can mean that the child's up later. It could be that it's really hard to get your child to behave when you're out in public or when you're having a meal. And so screen may be used by some parents just to kind of keep the peace. Now, I think what's important is to think about, is there something related to strategies in getting your child to comply or behave that may be missing? Or maybe your child's really having trouble with sleep and they can get help from a doctor about that. So I think where the line is kind of crossed is this sometimes used as a tool to help in certain situations? Okay. But if it's seeming like the screens are the only thing that get your child to comply, that there's increased meltdowns related to it, they're not going to school, they're refusing to do things in order to use screens, that's when we would call it like more problematic media use. And we would want to make sure that parents or caregivers are equipped with parenting strategies that work to get the child to behave, that there's non screen based positive play interactions, and then really help kind of navigate away from too much screen time during those pivotal periods where some of the meltdowns can happen.
If I get up in the morning,
Mhm,
I know I do this on a Sunday, so I'll use myself as an example. If I get up in the morning and I have things to do on Sunday, I get up before everyone in my family. So it's
mhm,
like it's quiet and
mhm,
it's really easy for me to be like, I can watch whatever I want
mhm,
right now. Like I can put on a show that no one else likes.
mhm,
I'm gonna listen to David Attenborough for 3 hours
mhm,
before anyone gets up. Because if I get up at 6:30 on Sunday, I can do that in my house.
mhm,
But I also know that like that definitely stymies my productivity because I get
mhm,
into like this different mode. Like, is that like a, are
mhm,
we like, like am I modularizing something? Like, what am
mhm,
I doing up here that
mhm,
makes it like so much easier to do laundry or go out and use the weed
mhm.
whacker if I never start with David Attenborough?
I mean, I think, what we know, especially like with transitioning children, for example, away from something they really want to do to something that may be more punishing. I mean, it's just, we recommend against having them move from watching TV or playing a video game to doing something like punishing, like chore, like something that's not enjoyable, because
Right.
it's like you're going for something you really enjoy, that's keeping you engaged, that's really reinforcing
Mhm.
to something that's like you dread doing. And so I think that, I mean, that's part of it. It's just the it's more reinforcing to stay on your screen than to disconnect and step away. I mean, there are things that so th- y- basically what we recommend for younger children is, if you have to move away from a screen to another activity, move from a screen to a reinforcing activity that doesn't involve a screen, like maybe playing with your parent or doing something that's more tangible, and then transitioning to something that is more of a shift in your in your routine, like having a meal, doing some chores and that kind of thing.
I remember a couple of years ago, there was this, I thought this was horrifying. And then I felt really justified because I found an article that
Mhm,
gave me some confirmation bias. So I'm going
mhm.
to run with it and I'm going to run it past you. There was like this trend where like parents would turn a video game off on the
Mhm,
parent, they'd record it and the kid would freak out.
mhm,
And this would be like kids anywhere from like 5 or 6, like up to like kind of early teens, but
mhm,
like the kid would be playing Fortnite and the parent would be like, bonk, and turn
mhm,
it off and the
mhm,
kid would flip. And I was like, man, that just seems like that's not really a fair illustration of it being a problem. And
right.
then I read an article and it was basically a child psychologist
Mhm,
saying that's pulling food out of a kid's mouth. It's the
mhm,
same thing psychologically. Like you
mhm,
have these endorphins, you're getting positive
mhm,
reinforcement.
mhm,
So imagine your kid is eating just anything, like it's an ice cream cone, it's a piece of candy,
mhm,
it's corn on the cob, whatever, something
yeah.
like, and you walk up and you go, ha, and then you throw it on the
Mhm,
ground. They cannot eat it anymore. You've
mhm,
ruined it.
yeah,
Like, why would you expect them
right.
to not have a poor reaction?
Yeah, and I think for eating, it's easier for some people to see that distinction. When it comes to playing video games, for some folks, especially parents who don't game, they may not realize, like, if you're in the middle of something and you are achieving mastery in a certain area, or you're
Mhm.
feeling really competent, like pulling that away also has another, like, negative experience too. And I think for parents who have gamed, or they can see, the progression of a one's gaming session, you wouldn't want to end it when you're in the middle of something. Like, you want to find those transition periods. And what's so challenging now, especially with streaming services, is that, like, whereas like when we were growing up, we'd have, a TV show would end and
Mhm.
we'd have to wait a week for the next one. That we see the same thing with like binging, like TV series. Like, it doesn't, you keep seeing the next one come up. So it's really hard to transition away from that when you see, like, oh, here's another one. So it's reinforcing. So you're kind of fighting against the technology itself, and having parents be mindful of that can help with strategies they use to reduce excessive screen time. The time limit may not be exactly precise. So you may say 30 minutes of gaming, but like when 29 minutes, 30 seconds comes and it's like you have another minute or two and you will wrap up, like having some flexibility around that is important when it comes to certain things that may not be timed out exactly as you'd like it.
You hear so much about the negative of screen
Mhm,
time, and then video games for a long time. I feel like screen time in general is
mhm,
kind of like bumped it out, but it was
mhm,
always like video games were out in your kid's brain. It just
mhm,
feels a little bit like probably the late '80s when everyone was like, cable television is
mhm,
coming around and it's going to rot your kid's brain because the TV never turns off now.
mhm,
It doesn't
mhm,
doesn't turn off at midnight and
mhm.
go to like a signal
Yep.
test. I mean, are we sort of just reacting to something we don't fully understand yet to a certain degree when we
Mhm.
talk about like the panic sometimes that is surrounding screen time or surrounding video game playing?
I think where there's a distinction, I mean, yes, there's always like concerns about changes and advances in technology. I think one of the distinctions that should be made is related to how quickly things are changing, more rapidly than they've had before. With that, the social piece too. So it's not just static looking at, content
Mhm.
and being concerned about the content. You're actually you can engage with it more with virtual reality or augmented reality, AI. Like there's just so much of an immersion that we want to consider what this means for development. So, I mean, I think there is a distinction there. If the content isn't harmful,
Right.
if the child is getting enough sleep, getting exercise, it's not replacing social interactions with others, we're not as concerned. And so it seems if we can take a more balanced approach and less extreme, not only is that more in line with what the science says, but it also will empower people more because for some folks it's like, well, it's just so overwhelming, it's all bad, I just give up, or I'm going to restrict entirely and it's going to fail. And it doesn't have to be that way. You can find the middle ground. There are some things for sure that I'm like, definitely no, like make sure your child is not exposed to online pornography, make sure you have conversations about what they see online so that they can come to you if they do come across confusing or upsetting content. But in the grand scheme of things, it's about balance. It's about having these conversations and being an open door so that you can have these discussions. I think the strongest evidence we have related to causality relates to the disrupted sleep, so melatonin issues, the light from your phones, that kind of thing. So there's that in terms of the physical health. We know like having a screen in the bedroom is linked to poor sleep and risk for cardiovascular concerns in terms of like obesity risk and so forth, sedentary behavior. But again, when it comes to the more newer research, newer technology, social media, phones, that sort of thing, it's more nuanced. And what we're seeing in some of the more recent research is that some mental health concerns may put you at risk for excessive use, or you may get turned to content on social media, for example, that exacerbates risk. And so that's a big concern is how do these algorithms work and potentially target those youth who are most vulnerable. And so if you have a teen who is struggling with mental health concerns, depressed, they may be online more, they may watch TV more, try to escape negative affect. And so it's important to be super sensitive to that link. But again, we can't say cause and effect. And we may see that some of these mental health concerns precede excessive screen time as well as, exacerbate symptoms. If the excessive screen time is passively looking at content that makes you feel worse about yourself,
Mhm.
that's not a good thing. But if you're using a lot of your time to connect with others online that build your confidence, that make you feel part of a community, that give you resources to help cope with whatever you're going through, I mean that's completely different. And so
Mhm.
that's why we really try to steer away from, and I said this a couple times, excessive screen time to like more of a problematic use, so use that is interfering with functioning and not so much just based solely on number of hours because it's too complex. Back in the 80s and 90s, we could say screen time and it usually meant TV viewing, video game playing, but now
Yeah.
it's too nuanced.
So as a family unit, what are some things that we can do together to have a healthier relationship with our
Mhm,
screen time and identify good screen time versus
mhm.
bad screen time?
So I think one great resource online is the Family Media Plan put out by the American Academy of Pediatrics. And basically it's a menu of options. There are so many things that families can choose together
Mm.
to that they may want to address. And so it could be something specific to the timing of use. So maybe you try for most meals of the week to not have screens at the table. For some families, it may be let's really try to limit our screen time around bedtime and make sure that we're not on screens a half hour before we go to sleep. And
Mm.
so coming together as a family to talk about different strategies that they may want to take could be important. And also because there's so many different choices you can make related to screen time, I feel like it can be empowering because maybe we can't reduce the number of hours right yet that we let our child be on screens just for numerous reasons. But maybe we choose to make sure that the content is appropriate. We choose the content and we agree upon the types of shows that they watch, or we try to be present to talk to them about what they're seeing on screens. And so I think the first aspect that families can approach when it comes to screen time strategies is looking at the family media plan and come up with goals that they have that are realistic, that can be achievable, and don't create too much of a ripple in the typical family routine or what's feasible. To prevent problematic media use, it's important to make sure that screens are not used as the only reinforcement or reward for your child. So, incorporating parent child play where the child's leading the play, where there's conversations about how the child's day went, if there's an older child. So, having some positive interactions in addition to engagement with screens is important because you really want to have that strong parent child relationship in place before you set a lot of limits that may not be enjoyable. And this is after, your child may already have a lot of screen time. You know what I mean? So the other thing I would recommend is having like a cell phone agreement plan
Mm.
or goals for use each week. Like maybe you let your child have a smartphone, but then these are the limits, these are the restrictions, these are the expectations, and this is what can happen if it doesn't go the way that we've planned. These are some limits that we've set, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so the cell phone blackout bag, or I
Mhm,
smash it
yeah.
with a hammer and post it on TikTok. No, I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think for children and teens, like, great, ways to navigate the topic of limit setting is to be forthcoming about your own experience because adults have similar concerns too. So,
Mhm.
if we can say like, "Hey, at nighttime, it's hard for me to not look at my phone when it's in my room. I'm gonna keep it further away from my bed so I'm not prone to check it," that kind of thing. So I think normalizing that these are designed to keep us engaged, and that we need to put these limits on ourselves too, so that we have a better relationship with technology is a great start. The other thing I was thinking about is related to a variety of activities throughout your day.
Mhm.
So like sometimes the analogy related to food intake can be helpful for parents and children to have these conversations. So although we'd love to have sweets all day and they're delicious, we can't because they
Mm.
actually don't give us all the nutrients we need. Like we need to have a balance. And that's kind of like a way you can think about screen time. So we need to get physical activity, we need to have time together. There are all these things that we need to feel good for our well-being. And screens can be part of that, but it can't be the only thing. And so sometimes putting in that framework can be helpful too.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for
Thank you.
talking with me today about screen time. I'm going to go not look at my phone when this is over. I
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for stopping by the search bar. Be sure to subscribe or follow so that you don't have to search for the next episode.